Imagine a world where the Berlin Wall never fell. Families separated for decades, Europe divided by a brutal ideological chasm, and the Cold War still casting its long, icy shadow. What would life look like in a world where East and West never reunited? Let's explore this haunting alternate reality. The Berlin Wall wasn't just a wall. It was a symbol. Built in 1961, it physically divided East and West Berlin and became the heart of Cold War tensions. For nearly 3 decades, it separated families, friends, and entire lives, embodying the ideological struggle between democracy and communism. When it fell in 1989, the world celebrated it as a victory for freedom and unity, a defining moment in modern history. But what if that moment never came? Imagine a Germany still split in two, its people living vastly different lives under contrasting ideologies. In this alternate timeline, we'll explore the far-reaching consequences of a world where the Berlin Wall remains standing. In this alternate timeline, East and West Germany remain isolated, their fates dictated by opposing ideologies. Politically, East Germany, or the GDR, continues as a strict Soviet satellite state, enforcing oppressive surveillance through the Stasi. The West, meanwhile, strengthens ties with NATO, becoming a capitalist stronghold in the heart of Europe. The people of East Berlin remain trapped under authoritarian rule, with travel restrictions, economic stagnation, and a controlled press shaping daily life. Western Berlin, surrounded but free, becomes a flashpoint for ideological propaganda, symbolizing hope for some and resentment for others. Economically, the divide deepens. East Germany's planned economy struggles to innovate, while the West thrives as a hub of commerce and industry. Over time, the gap between the two halves grows insurmountable, with East Germans increasingly risking their lives to escape. A modern Berlin would look like two entirely different worlds, one side gleaming with skyscrapers, the other crumbling under isolation and neglect. And beyond Germany, Europe remains frozen in Cold War geopolitics. The Iron Curtain solidifies, keeping nations like Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Hungary firmly in the Soviet bloc. Global superpowers, locked in competition, escalate their arms race, and tensions in proxy wars worldwide rise to new heights. By the late 1990s in this alternate timeline, dissatisfaction reaches a breaking point. Massive organized protests erupt in East Berlin, fueled by decades of oppression. Protesters flood the streets, clashing with police and demanding reforms. The government responds with a brutal crackdown. Tear gas fills the air as tanks roll into the city center. Western journalists capture the chaos, broadcasting the images to a horrified global audience. International outrage grows, with Western powers threatening intervention while the Soviet Union issues warnings against interference. This moment becomes a turning point, testing the limits of the GDR's control and the world's patience. In this alternate history, the fallout from the East Berlin protests shifts the balance of power worldwide. Western nations impose stricter sanctions, cutting off what little economic lifelines the East had. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union faces its own internal struggles, but its grip on Eastern Europe remains firm. On the global stage, relations between the United States and the Soviet Union reach new lows. Proxy conflicts, like those in the Middle East or Africa, spiral further out of control as neither side dares to back down. Diplomacy is replaced by fear of open conflict. For the people of Berlin, life remains grim. East Berliners lose hope for freedom, while West Berliners grow increasingly alienated, surrounded by a wall that symbolizes not just division, but a permanent wound. If the Berlin Wall never fell, the world we know today would look vastly different. The European Union, a symbol of unity, might never have emerged in its current form. NATO would face constant threats on its doorstep, and Germany, a major economic powerhouse today, would remain a shadow of its potential. Even culturally, the divide would be stark. Music, art, and literature from the East would remain censored and hidden, while the West flourishes as a beacon of creativity and expression. Most hauntingly, the world would still live under the constant fear of Cold War escalation. Without the fall of the wall as a catalyst for change, we'd be trapped in a cycle of mistrust, division, and ideological warfare. So what do you think? How would the world have unfolded if the Berlin Wall never fell? Would the Cold War have escalated to devastating levels? Or would new leaders have eventually found a way to tear down the wall? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this dive into alternate history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more thought-provoking content.